We'll call the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Roll call. First, let me welcome Mark Bauernhuber. Did I say that correctly, Mark?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, great. Who is now taking Scott's place since he moved on to, I'd say bigger and better things, but I've been around for 30-some years. I'm not so sure. I think this is bigger and better here. Scott won't be here today. He's been excused, but we do have a quorum. Everyone else is here, so I appreciate that. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Move the agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Andrew sent us the minutes. Anybody have any changes in what we have?
Move the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see. Announcement and comments. Our big announcement is we do have a new member. We're looking forward to working with Mark. As I told him before, it's good to have somebody that reduces the average age of the the commission, so somebody will be around. And actually, Mark, you probably will remember everything we've done. And
Good
with
transition. We don't
Andrea,
show up
we're
next
not quite sure.
I feel like I'm being set up.
So welcome. We do look forward to working together. Announcement, comments, and updates. Normally, Lou Kilmer does that. Scott's going to be in charge of that from now on, and Scott could not make it today. We do have, I can report on number one, since I'm a member, the Non-Residential Design Review Committee did not have a meeting, and we've got nothing so far, right, Susan?
Correct.
Okay. I can report on a council meeting also, but maybe if I could ask our councilman to give us any overview, that would take me. Yeah, over there would be fine, so we record it. Thank you, Jerry.
Jerry Morris, Town Council member. Council meeting was actually pretty short. We reviewed lots of minutes and so forth of the past meetings. I guess the most important thing that we discussed was starting to get an ordinance started on reducing the speed on Route 1 through the Bethany area. We're working with all the towns from the beginning of Bethany all the way through Fenwick and trying to get the speed limit reduced to 30 miles an hour from May through September, when most of the people are here for the summer. There was a lot of conversation about the flashing lights, that people aren't paying any attention to them, and there have been several close calls and so forth. So we're hoping, looking at statistics, will reduce the potential for people being injured. That's the main objective of that. Other than that, we had reports from your committee, from the Budget and Finance Committee, which I'm part of. And I think that's pretty much it.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If I'd known I was going to speak, I'd have come more prepared.
That was prepared enough. Plus, I think all the commission members were present, at least most of us were. Good. Okay, any comments, questions from the Planning and Zoning Commission or to the Planning and Zoning Commission?
No, sir.
Okay. I think the public just commented for us in the form of Mr. Morris. New business. Consideration of an application for petitioning for property identified as Lot 42 and 43, Block 28 at 651 Tingle Avenue in the R1 zoning district to be divided into 2 lots. Susan, if you'll,
I
yeah, did we do
respectfully
everything on
ask that the commission postpone this. The update on this is that this is an estate issue, and they jumped the gun a little bit. It's not properly been put into the person's name, so they didn't do this quite correctly. So I ask that we postpone this until the next meeting.
everybody agree, John?
Susan, I don't believe there's any, at least at this point, any controversy about doing this if it were to come before us. Is that correct?
There's no controversy. It was 2 lots at one time.
That's what I
There's
thought.
nothing, there's no odd issues with it. They just didn't, I guess, right now it's posted as, and I may have to repost it and consider that, because right now it's posted in the original owner's name.
Okay.
And this person passed away, and the person who has inherited it or gotten it out of the estate, it's not totally been transferred yet.
Hasn't been probated
Yes,
correctly.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do have a motion to postpone, defer?
Move
Second.
postponement.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, our next item. Discussion adding the following language concerning pervious paving to section 425-27, exterior design requirements for residential buildings. Pervious paving in all zoning districts, all new and substantially improved paved areas not within the footprint of the structure, including but not limited to driveways, sidewalks, parking areas, patios, and pool surrounds, shall be of a permeable material with a minimum of 10% open area. Examples of permeable paving include, but are not limited to, porous asphalt, porous concrete, stone, clamshells, and permeable pavers. Susan?
This is what we started with at the last meeting, prepared by Scott. And so this is what we were discussing and came up, what does 10% mean, et cetera. Since then, I took a look at it and researched what permeable materials are out there, and I talked with a couple other towns. I called Rehoboth. They don't have a permeable or pervious or impervious ordinance. They do have one for natural area, and they require lots to be 50% natural area, which means grass, no decorative stone, mulch only, plantings, trees, bushes, flowers, that kind of thing. But they are looking at pervious and impervious. So that's something that they're just getting into this next month. I called South Bethany. They have a pretty good ordinance about it, considering what we call ground covering, which is permitted. And they have a percentage, and they deal with pervious. They have to have a certain amount of the lot can only be of pervious material. And then in Fenwick, they only allow pervious. You cannot have concrete or asphalt. They have to have, all their driveways have to be of pervious material. So in looking at all that, I really thought that South Bethany's worked rather well. And in talking about it with their code enforcement guy there, Joe Hinks, he said if it's done correctly per the manufacturer's specifications, he says, this pervious paving or pavers work really well, but it has to be by the specification. They can't use a regular paving block and just stick it in the sand. So it has to be one that is meant for pervious paving and it has to be done correctly. It's not cheap, and for pavers, it's excavating quite a deep section and then layering your aggregates as the manufacturer details. So what I think, what I came up with for a potential ordinance would be ground covering permitted on residential lots. In all residential districts, except for natural areas, all open-air ground covering, including but not limited to new and substantially improved driveways, parking areas, walkways, at-grade decks, and patios, shall be of a pervious material as defined. Substantially improved shall mean an existing ground covering is to be more than 50% replaced, repaired, or resurfaced. Ground covering shall be limited to 45% of the lot area. And I'll go through the numbers on that. And then for the definition for pervious materials, materials that permit water to enter the ground by virtue of their porous nature or by their design using spaces in the installation of the material to allow water infiltration. Examples of permitted pervious materials include sand, gravel, shells, and, when installed per current industry standards or guidelines, permeable pavers, pervious concrete, and porous asphalt. And then a definition for natural area is that portion of the lot that is dedicated to either trees, grass, flowers, bushes, other plantings, and/or mulched areas. Mulched areas shall be limited to vegetative ground cover only and not clamshells, decorative stone, or other similar hard materials. I think both definitions are important because we don't want, if we give them a percentage that they can use pervious materials, I don't want them to say, well, this is my planting area and it's all stone. You want to have something left over.
Okay.
So I arrived at the 45% by looking at what we currently let people develop their lots as. Right now, you can cover your lot with structure, 40%, that's the max. That includes your shed, your house. The only thing not included in that is a pool. So we're going to leave that out for the minute. So if that's 40%, that means that 2,000 square feet on a typical 5,000 square foot lot is available for covering with structure. It's 2,500 on a corner lot down east of Route 1, and then in the R2 district, it's 2,800. We're not really seeing a problem in the R2 district with overcovering on the lots, but we're going to keep it in there. Now, if I use a maximum for ground covering of 45%, that means that they can the maximum they can cover it with a pervious paving. The other they can't is 2,250 on a 5,000 square foot lot. That leaves 15% for pool and landscaping, 750 square feet, which on these narrow lots seemed reasonable. So that you just follow the numbers through with how much on a corner lot, how much on a 7,000 square foot lot, and the numbers continue to go up a little bit. So that's how I came up with that, and what they could cover. That means that everything not under the footprint of the house is pervious.
Oh, okay.
And you can only do 45%. It says all ground covering.
Any questions?
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, just a comment. Firstly, Susan, thank you very much. Your revisions to me are much more comprehensive and clearer than what we started with. I always had personally, I had ambiguity about what the, quote, minimum 10% open area meant. And
Yeah, that was, actually, in these porous pavings, the permeable pavers, the openings are about 10%. I was reading that on one of these. But what they really look for is for a permeable surface is how it contains 1 inch of rain over a certain period of time. And that's kind of the standard I was looking at for whether it's permeable or not. We'll have greater rains over greater periods of times and our nor'easters and such, but you really want to have it make that 1 inch of rain, and I forget what the period of time is, but if it has to handle that for it to be considered pervious.
Susan, in the handout that we have in front of us, people
Yes.
can't see it, there is, to me, an excellent example of what the layering is, what is required to meet the current standards. If we were to approve this and send it to the council for final approval, would this example, where would this example reside so that if somebody came in and wanted to do it, they could see what was meant by current standards? Is that just,
Yeah, this is one example that I got from South Bethany. He also gave me some websites where the pavers are, the manufacturers, this is, I guess, the same one, it's a better picture. But I went through, they have the, what the aspects and everything. So there are some sites that I can show people or direct them to. And this one site also had what the aggregates were, what size they were. This is for one particular manufacturer, but I'm sure each one has to give me the specs. If they say, I want to use this permeable paver, I have to have the specs to look at it and say, yes, this will work if you do it, if you install it the way it's supposed to be installed.
Mr. Chairman, when we were working on the bulk density regulations, if you will, we had, it was like examples of what you could do. There were pictures and so forth. To me, this type of illustrative information would be helpful in something similar to that, so that when people come in, there's something for them to look at, if you will, to understand, so that they don't just think they can drop down, a piece of stone or whatever on sand.
Right, well, if this goes forward, I think the next step would then be to send examples to all of the businesses that have licenses in the town that do hardscaping and contractors and such, so that they're aware that we're heading in this direction. And we can use these as examples, but this is one manufacturer, and I would hate to just
Oh, we can't do that.
do that. Yeah, I don't think that's a correct thing, but it gives an example of how they can do it.
Yeah, well, they have to come in and see you anyway.
Right, any kind of, we permit this now, so,
Right.
so they would have to come in and then show me what they are going to do.
Thank you.
Diane?
Yes, Susan, the remaining area for pool and or landscaping, is the pool have to be surrounded by permeable materials?
Well, I left the pool out because, yeah, the paving around the pool would have to be pervious. And I know we're mixing words here a little bit, but I left the pool sort of out because, one, it's going to have a coping and everything.
okay.
And I just lumped it in there. It already has regulations that it has to be within the setbacks to the pool's
Okay,
edge.
so that takes
So-
away from the house if it has to be set back.
So and basically in that 40%, if I subtract, let me see if I remember the number. If I take all the setbacks, or taking a standard 40 by 125 lot, right? And I add up what the setbacks are, the area left is about 2,320, I think, square feet. So that if they do their 40%, they only have so much more, and they have to put parking in, so, you know, they're squeezing all this stuff in. So if you haven't noticed, they're putting pools in, but they're really tiny. They're not-
Hot tubs, right?
They're really
Dip your
small.
toes in.
And people are now telling me, they want to put a plunge pool in, and I'm sort of, why? I don't get some of these, but so that, they have to put it in that what's left over.
Susan, if somebody came in with one of those above-ground pools, would we be able to say no?
Above ground.
You know, the ones you see on, you know.
Basically, set-in decking.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, you know.
Like the one you'd build.
Yeah, the ones in my backyard. Grandfather.
I haven't had that, and I don't expect to really, because people aren't here, and I think that they take,
I don't think we'd want to see those in the
no,
town
but
anyways.
they'd have the same regulations. That would be considered a structure, because the
Right.
code says a pool can only be not considered if it's no more than, I think, 2 feet out of ground or something. So, yeah.
I don't think we'd see it anyway, but,
I don't see it as something a second
just a
home would have.
okay. Yeah, well, I assumed it would be considered like a shed or something like that.
Yeah.
So, good. Mark, you're our expert. You got some questions? I know this dropped
You're our
right on.
architect
No,
now.
I mean, I was really happy to see this. I think just given our, other water issues that the town is trying to conquer, but also, walking around, a lot of people are putting in a lot of significantly large concrete driveways where there's other materials that can, help reduce and take some of that demand off of the storm systems and other displacement. So I think this makes sense to me, and if it's being reviewed, I think the manufacturer is then, part of the decision of the approval. To Susan's comment, they do vary, I think, greatly, and that's how they market themselves, based on what the subgrade composition is. So, that might play into the owner's decision-making, but I think as long as it's being reviewed by the town, this seems to be appropriate.
Should we address what we mean by permeable? I mean, is there a definition of that?
Well,
I know you said something about a 1-inch rainstorm or
I
something
did
like that.
pervious materials. Let's see.
Because I don't want some manufacturer coming in and saying this is
I mean,
pervious, but,
some people do an impervious surface ratio, permeable paving. Let's see.
yeah, because it says material that permits water to enter the ground by virtue of blah, blah, blah. Somebody could say, well, yeah, I let 1/8 of an inch of water in, and it's flooded.
Mr. Chairman, I found the definition that Susan had come up with as certainly as a layman, a definition that I could understand. And I'm only concerned, I'm concerned if we go to much greater specificity, that we might find ourselves, as we have in the past, as technology moves along and all, suddenly we're requiring something that the industry may have moved on from. When we were doing like geothermal stuff, we had some very specific language that it had moved on, and we moved back to under current industry standards, so that we weren't defining what size valve and so forth. So I personally have no problem with the definition as it currently reads.
Yeah, I'm just, my comment is, yes, the definition may change, but is there, yeah, there may not be a definition at all that's legit, so anybody could come in and say, well, this is pervious material, and it could be, but it's only good for so much drainage. You know, you said something like one-inch rainstorm or something?
Yeah, some of these talk about, well, you know, if we have a major event, the water table's just not gonna,
Right.
it's
yeah.
not gonna
No,
work.
yeah, I understand.
But they talk about here, Wikipedia has types of permeable paving, and it has to be labeled as a pervious concrete. I don't think that.
Is there a label? Is there a national label for
Well,
that?
it would be it would be in the specifications, that it lets so much water through. I don't know that there's a standard for how much water, but I think there's a rain event, it's supposed to be 1 inch in so many minutes or so much time, or,
Well, that's what I'm looking for, if that's
yeah, and I'm
specific,
not
that
finding it.
it's gotta let this much water through at this period of time, that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. Because that, again, gets into, another question I have is, maintenance of this material. I mean, if you don't maintain it, is it gonna clog
Well,
up?
that's another,
So does that become an enforcement problem? I don't know how you enforce it, it'd be kinda tough.
yeah, I don't really know what I think that's where I got into that percentage, and I just didn't wanna. I don't know how, I don't think that there's tons of different concretes that,
Did any of these have maintenance, requirements on them?
they probably do. I didn't go to that tab and print that out, but there's installation guides.
Right,
He picked out one particular company, EP Henry, and a couple of types of them that tells you the size of the cubes and how they interlocked and how you can put them down. And when I looked at the installation guides, it talked about the way that they have to be installed, but I didn't go to the maintenance part. So there probably is. But again, there's no way to really enforce that.
it's not like enforcing grass cutting, no.
No, how would you know? Did you sweep your pavers today? I don't know. I mean, we're supposed to be maintaining our asphalt too. And I talked with, when I was talking with Matt Janis in Rehoboth, they have a pervious paved area as well. And he says, yeah, it's great, you know, all the water in the parking lot in the rear where the town people park, there's a section of it that's pervious, and the water runs to it, and it drains, and it works well. He goes, but we haven't maintained it. He goes, you know, you're supposed to sweep it or something, and you know, it just probably doesn't happen. You know, we'll know when we know, is pretty much.
John, yes.
Mr. Chairman, with a simple modification, I think we're not fully addressing your concern, but in what we have before us, it says, and when installed per current industry standards. If we were to add, when installed, and then add, and maintained per current industry standards and guidelines, we have at least put a marker down that we are concerned about the maintenance part of it. Doesn't say anything about how we're going to enforce it or whatever, but at least it puts people on notice that they have to both install it, and then if there are maintenance requirements, that they should abide by it. And so I would suggest adding, when installed adding and maintained per current industry standards or guidelines.
Well, that's pretty, yes.
Would the industry have some sort of standard in order for it to qualify as a permeable block?
That's my understanding, but
That's what I would think.
I didn't see what that was. And there's some, what do you call it?
I would hope yeah, that's what I would think.
That's what I would think too.
Yep.
We went through all this. And you also have to run back and brush every so often, because there is one section of Atlantic Avenue that is now got sand in it, and it doesn't drain as well as the rest of the streets. So we have to go back and do that, which is what you're talking about in the future. So, what we're talking about, you know, with Atlantic Avenue, we have to go back and we have to maintain it, which is all part of the requirement of keeping it permeable. But I would think the industry, especially from an architectural standpoint, they would understand what permeable means, because anybody could have a concrete block and say it's permeable, but I would think they would have to prove it's with some kind of standard. Where it would be
Well,
written, I don't know.
That's where you need the manufacturer's specifications on installation.
Right.
And permeable pavers have the notches on the side
Right.
to space them.
But that's by installation. That doesn't mean that the block itself is permeable. It means
Correct.
the surrounding area is permeable.
Correct.
That's correct, yeah.
It's a
It's
system.
more by installation than by the block itself.
Oh, yeah.
So arguing whether or not the block itself is permeable, I don't know if that makes any sense. Concrete, obviously, is permeable because of voids of some sort, or how it's designed, as opposed to this where you have interlocking blocks. You know, I don't know that you can put enough in here to make it
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I agree, we can't,
ironclad.
yeah, we can't catch everything. I think John allayed a little bit of my concern when he said,
Yeah.
and maintained. That gives us a little hook.
And I think with
later
Susan
on.
following up on it, and if we do send it out to the people, the local pavers and people that do this sort of thing, as well as the architectural people that come into the area, they understand what's required, I think you've covered it.
Yeah, I think when we say and maintained, that will give John, when he runs around town, if he, after a rainstorm, and he sees one of these pervious driveways flooded, he can make the assumption, all right, it's not working now.
If you look at any driveway that exists today without this regulation, you'll see all of them have grass in them and so forth, and they don't drain.
Right,
It's everywhere, so.
yeah, because I'm not sure how many of the old ones were, pervious anyway. I think Susan said it right. They go down the paver depth and then they
Exactly.
plop it on, and that's it. And these things that she has, they show a pretty good. Yeah, I did have one other concern. I mean, I know it's covered, but, when we do road maintenance, or if we're doing something on water or something on sewer, not sewer, but water, these people bring their pavers all the way out to the street. They're bringing them to the right-of-way of the town. Now, in the past, I know the town just replaces it in kind. They go ahead, and it's a permanent structure. We shouldn't be replacing with the town's money, but that's what we end up doing.
Right.
This could be very expensive once they start doing this, especially with that, with the drainage pipes and everything else. The town could be spending a lot of money if they continue to replace in kind the permeable system.
We-
I would like to make sure that we say on your driveways, you stop the property line, and after that, don't touch the town's property. But that doesn't seem to be happening anywhere, because if you look at all these driveways, they go all the way to the macadam.
Well, we give them 20 feet through the right-of-way.
We do.
Yeah. That's in the code. we give them that they can connect into their property. And supposedly, it's a maximum of 20 feet. I make it a maximum of 20 feet if it leads to a parking space. I don't just give them 20 feet.
Right.
But, and they want to take their driveway all the way out to the edge of the street. Could we make make that section stone or something? You know,
Well, I would say, it looks fine to come out, it doesn't bother me on that. It's just, I don't want to have the town having to pick up the tab for their aesthetics that they want to go all the way out.
Oh,
Yeah, they
we
put
don't-
gravel there if they want.
we don't replace with pavers or anything. We put concrete back, I believe, is
I
the
know we
most we'll
put
do.
concrete back. What-
And I guess if we pass this, we'll have to look at having a company do a porous concrete right up to
Okay,
that
that
section.
makes
but-
sense.
Yeah, normally it's, if you put a permanent structure, and that's, pavered would be a permanent structure, within the right-of-way, not just Bethany Beach or any town, then it's your responsibility to maintain that permanent structure. And if the town has to, because of their requirements to maintain something, has to tear it up, it's not the town's problem. It's,
I think that hasn't really been a problem. If it's a really nice paver driveway or something, the owners know that the onus to put it back the way they had it is on them. And they
a lot of
typically,
these pavers, say going up Oakwood,
yeah,
a lot of those houses put pavers in the last, say, decade or so. When they started to become a little,
Yeah.
before, 10 years ago, 12 years ago,
But
they
if-
didn't really
if it-
use them.
if it has to be torn up, they replace them.
They do.
I haven't had anybody come back and say, oh, yeah, just put concrete, I don't care. If they want it to look nice, they typically pick it up and do it themselves.
I don't even think we ought to be replacing concrete, because that'd be
Yeah.
a permanent structure. That's somebody else's problem. Okay, well, if that doesn't seem to be a problem, that's good. I'd hate to have the town responsible for, especially when you showed me what has to be done on these things.
Very good
That could
point.
be very expensive for us too, when we're, say, repaving one of our roads. Okay,
I have one question.
yes,
Susan, the 50% that needs to be replaced, that's exempt, correct? Or if it's over 50%, then they have to replace it with a permeable? My question with this, with where I'm going, is that if someone decides they want to only do 45% this year, and then go back to the old rules, and then come back next year and say, oh, we're going to do the rest of it.
I agree with you, I
Well,
agree
we
with you.
could, yeah, I guess, yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether you've had that occur in some other situation.
Substantial damage and substantial improvement under FEMA, yeah, that can be a problem with that, with the way it's structured. I put that in because I get a lot of people who come and say, I have a stone driveway and I'm tired of it, I'm gonna put asphalt down. And, you go, okay, then you gotta get a permit, so we know about it, because we have to look and see where the water meter is, make sure you're not just paving over it, and, which has happened. And, then we gotta look at it being pervious. If they do half and half, I don't, it would look really terrible.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering if you would deny it the second time because they had,
Well, then I'd have to make them do half pervious.
it might have,
Yeah, yeah. Well, if they came in with that kind of half-brained thing, I'd tell them that they're gonna have a half pervious next year then, because,
Kathy?
Yeah, Susan, I'm just curious, are people already aware that this is available and might be the direction we'd be going, or is there a lot of the people I have spoken to, asking what are we up to these days, they don't know pervious, it's,
never heard of it.
I'm just wondering how much of an educational issue this is gonna be for,
it's gonna
for
be a
people.
little bit of an education. It's coming, and I get asked about it all the time. I had 2 calls this week from contractors who said, I gotta do, I'm doing a patio and a walkway. What type of, how much has to be pervious? And I just have to tell them, right now, none. I said, but it's coming. I had one go, when? I said, not next week, but it's coming.
And that's one of the reasons I think we've been talking the last
Yeah.
few months. We want to get this
Yeah.
in as soon as possible.
I mean, I guess my thought is that,
Well, I mean,
I-
at this point, there's so much construction going on,
Yeah.
it's gonna be good for the future. I'm not too worried about it for right now. Right now is whatever it is, but,
I'm just aware that, just in my own experience with contractors and whatnot, there are good ones and there are bad ones, and there are some out there that will tell people the wrong thing just to get a job done quickly, and off they go in their truck.
right, but we have to give them a permit, and we have to, I wanna see how much it's costing. That's always a big clue as to what's going on. And then we're gonna have to now inspect, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to dig down. And then I wanna see the aggregate on site, if they're doing pavers.
That was
If
my
they're
next
doing
question.
concrete, we're gonna have to look at the specifications for that. I didn't delve too much into these specs yet, but we're gonna have to look at it, and then I'm gonna have to either see the job order slip that tells me what's coming, what it is, or a test pour, or, you know, we're gonna have to figure out how to know
Yeah.
what it is they're putting in there.
That was my next question, actually, so, yeah.
They're gonna have to give me some kind of documentation.
Any other questions? Okay. I have a motion to do anything?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we take Susan's draft that starts ground covering permitted on residential lots as amended, and propose that as the first step in addressing the question of pervious paving.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Are there any comments? Okay. All right, have a proposal and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. It's approved. Thank you, Susan, that was very good.
Yeah, very good.
Good work.
Very good job.
Yeah, thank you.
And now you have something to tell them when they come talk to you. You're too late, huh? We get in quickly. Okay. New business, item C. Consider drafting an ordinance that would require the protection of existing trees over a certain diameter or the replacement of any tree that is permitted to be removed over a certain diameter with a equal or greater diameter of trees, plural, in aggregate, meaning that they could replace a 10-inch diameter tree with two 5-inch diameter trees. Okay, open for discussion. Susan, you have a...
This is first I'm hearing this, and it's interesting because we just had a lot in Turtle Walk. They removed the trees. It was a heavily wooded lot, and I'm wondering how this would work with that, because they have to remove the trees to put the house in the middle. I mean, they took quite a few down.
Like they did with the, off of Kennel on the Addy property.
Yeah,
They took a lot of trees
Well,
down,
the lot that's up for
Right,
proposal
so-
next time is wooded.
right? Yes?
they're leaving ones that are not in the way on the perimeter, but, you know, that was a substantial amount they had to take down.
Good point. Any thoughts?
Well, I know friends that have wooded lots too, and they have to take trees down just so they have space. you
Right,
know.
so
I mean,
if
it's like culling the trees.
I take 10 large trees down, and I put the house, where am I going to put 10 more?
Yeah.
That's, I don't know if it,
John?
Mr. Chairman, this is absolutely flying by the seat of my pants. But the town has acquired a number of natural areas. And if trees have to come down in order to build that, and they have a replacement requirement, I wonder if part of that replacement might in fact be by planting trees in our natural areas, as a way of accommodating that property interest that wants to do something, but potentially adding to our own natural spaces in a productive way. Examples of replacement like that would be if you're building a golf course and you have a natural habitat area that you want, that needs to be protected, sometimes what they will end up doing is saying, well, I can't do it here, but I can do it somewhere else. And I will make sure that we still have the same amount of wetlands and all, but in a different location. I have not done any research about whether that would be appropriate here, but we do in fact have some space, and I would think that might be an alternative or an opportunity to address the concern
That would probably get into something that the town manager's office would have to deal with, because you don't want people, yeah, I mean, like the idea, maybe they'll just, it's $50 or something, and we go buy a tree and put it in ourselves, not we, but the town. On my street alone, which is one of the older areas, there are 2 trees, not on my property, but there are 2 trees, and they've got to at least be 5 foot in diameter, and both of them ought to be coming down sooner or later. Their trunks are like the size of huge trees. I cannot imagine trying to replace those trees with, I mean, they're just huge. The other thing is, and I found this out by my insurance people, naturally, I can't get insurance hardly anywhere anymore around here. You got, even Lloyd's of London quit insuring me because I'm too close to the ocean. They told me to take a tree down because they wouldn't insure me unless I took a tree down. So, now I have to take a tree down to keep insurance. So that creates another situation. I sort of lean to liken a little bit of what John's saying, is if, right now, if the warehouser, if they do something and when they take their trees down, they replace it with other trees, but they replace it with saplings and things like that, and they don't have a huge tree coming
I know in Rehoboth's ordinance for that, they have a tree ordinance, and you have to have, I think it's a minimum 3-inch caliper for a replacement tree, and they make you replace tree for tree, which in these wooded lots could be really difficult. But maybe if it's something where the ordinance says outside of the footprint of the house, so then they'd have to show me how the house is going to be set, and then they can take away the trees that are in the way of the house, and then anything else they have to replace. And then that would take some of the onus off. If we did something like John suggests, my thoughts would be that it would turn into a payment, a situation where, they take out 10 trees and they don't want to put any back, so the town says, okay, you have to replace them on our property, and they each cost $500. They'd say, okay, here's a check, and then the town would just be collecting money to put in future trees.
Susan, is there other language or requirements within the current code that this ties into from a landscape? Yeah, so
No,
I think
we don't require you to have any landscaping.
yeah.
You can
I like where you were going with what you just suggested. I was thinking something along the same lines where, you know, part of this is maintaining, like, you know, beautiful streetscapes too, and it's unfortunate to drive down, you know, a development and have nothing, and
Yeah.
people don't want to rake leaves. You know, so I think some combination or alternate approach that takes into account the footprint and some requirement of new plantings.
Yeah, or
positive
like
thing.
we did with the bulk density, we had a trade-off. Maybe there's some way to do a trade-off where we make it a positive thing to put in a few trees in some of these. It works better in the larger lots. These 40 by 125s, it's really difficult to get a
Well, but-
tree in there.
Well, I know the ones on my street, and you know the two I'm talking about.
Yes,
They're all-
I know the
I mean,
two.
they're massive, very massive.
But you
One
have
of
a
them takes
lot
a
of,
whole front yard.
you have a lot of trees back in there, you know, and,
Yeah.
and
That side of town has a lot of trees.
Yes, it does. So,
it's just pretty difficult to get them into these smaller lots. They tend to just put in more shrubbery or something rather than big trees.
And
I
Mr.
think you and Mark are going down the direction that I probably would rather see. To me, this is not as important as, say, the pervious, because I'd like to get that done as soon as we can. But, yeah, to keep the trees, the towns are pretty good about trees, or the builders have been, people like to keep them if they can. John, you wanted to say something?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, this item is not ripe for a specific ordinance and all. But taking a step back, whatever we do from my vantage point, and don't hold me to these words, but it should be a net zero result. If you have to take trees down, at a minimum, there should be some replacement program so that at the end of the day, the amount of tree coverage in the community is no less after doing your project than before.
Ooh, that'd be kind of tough, I think, John, because as Susan was saying, just think of,
Well, you know what, Mr. Chairman, it might be difficult, but there is concern in this community about keeping the tree coverage and all. And so we should at least acknowledge that there are concerns about that, and we should work towards, without getting into the specifics, but we should work towards, if we're going to do something, that results in no net loss.
well, yeah, I'm just thinking of some of the big lots we have that are, you know, the town's always had trees. As a matter of fact, where Bethany proper is, the Oakwood area, I came here in '73, I think, before they started to develop some of that. That was all woods. I mean, the whole thing, Bethany proper and all the houses on Oakwood and Wellington, that was just a stand of trees. There's probably 1,000 trees or so. And I just can't see how, I mean, there's still a lot of trees, but when Susan said the footprint, you know, that's one thing. Like off of Kent, how many trees would that they did take down that they'd have to replace? I just don't know how we do that.
Well, then maybe you just can't build as many properties and so forth. I mean, I've been here since 1981. I know what kind of coverage there was. Bayberry Woods was nothing but forest and so forth. My only point would be that I'm not inclined to favor development that is that comes about with the cost of losing tree and natural spaces. And so as developers or as things change, it might be difficult, but we put people on notice that there are costs that go with a trade-off for doing those kinds of things, and part of that is natural tree coverage in the town. However, we had come to accomplish that.
Any other,
I'm just looking at D on this agenda, and it seems like between the three topics, we're starting to go down the path of, requirements for landscape, basically, in a comprehensive way. So I'm sort of wondering if it makes sense to see what neighboring jurisdictions are incorporating on this front, because, in addition to the mature trees that might be removed and replanting trees that will eventually, take their place, but also the natural vegetated space and the pavement, you're starting to, put requirements around what you have to do outside your structure footprint. And I think that's a great thing. But I wonder how, this probably all ties together in a formula or a trade-off approach or something like that, that gets you to, I think, also what John is suggesting. And then if it is truly difficult in the smaller lots, maybe there is a program or some sort of partnership that, is the offset as the backup. But I think it might be good to just understand what other jurisdictions are doing in this way.
The only one I know is Rehoboth. Definitely has both natural area requirements and tree requirements.
Right.
They are awarded as a tree city. I think we are as well. But they make you replace the trees that you take down. Their lots are the same size. They're 5,000 square foot lots typically, but they're 50 by 100, and their coverage is much less than we have.
what, 35%?
I think it's something like that now. And they only allow you to build, I think, 3,000 square feet. I think that's your floor area ratio is down to that. So they tend to have lots where there's more room to put these little trees. I know developers who do this, and they put the trees in, and typically some of them don't last. So that's what it is. Their natural area there is 50%, and they require that on all the lots as well. So we don't have that luxury of putting that in, and I'm all for putting in something about a minimal amount of natural area, and considering trees removed and trees replaced, but I don't think we can do a one-for-one. I don't think some of these wooded lots could bear that, and I don't know where the town would put additional trees.
Across the street. We took a bunch down.
Oh, we got
Well, I was reflecting, Mr. Chairman, on my argument. We wouldn't have a central park had we had that kind of requirement, because they took a lot of trees out.
That's what I'm saying.
Susan, I don't know what organization gives that designation of a tree city,
I don't know.
but there must be, there's some entity that
Arbor Foundation.
does that.
What?
I think I could be wrong. It might be the National Arbor Foundation or something.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, if they, whomever does that, they might in fact have some ideas about how to address development and all, but maintain your designation as a tree city. And if we're gonna go forward, that might be worth looking into to see.
Okay, yeah, good. Do I have a volunteer to look into that? Or do I need to appoint somebody?
You're gonna have to appoint me.
I'll look into it.
Oh, there you go.
Good. There
Oh,
we go.
Mark,
I feel like
you're
I have
just
to
being
volunteer
nice.
on the first
Yeah, that's right.
John's new best friend.
Say thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
We know who I was.
Mark, we
Already.
forgot to point out that there are certain initiation rituals that go on, and you just won one.
He's-
okay,
Mark,
it's
he's the
okay.
he's the vice chairman,
No-
so
no problem.
we gotta take care of
Thank you
him.
very much.
Thank you. So what, I think we'll table this until, and I'll put no,
C&D table.
yeah, I'll put no time limit on that, Mark, just whenever
Okay.
you let Susan, let Andrea know that we want it on and give her whatever you got, and then she'll take care of it. Very good, thank you. More than likely, unless you get it done soon, we probably won't do anything in December. You know, we normally take a hiatus there. So I think it's one of these things that, you know, whenever you can get to it, I think that's good. I don't think it's that pressing. Right, I'm gonna move along on that, so we table this. So, discuss a minimum amount of natural vegetative space on every lot.
What?
Do we want to discuss that, or,
I would suggest we discuss that when Mark
Oh,
comes
at the
back
same
with his
time, yeah.
I
information
agree.
on trees.
I agree. So we'll table
Because we
that,
could've talking about
and,
shrubs.
and Mark, if whoever you find that does this, if they have any comments for that, we'll be glad to know. Susan, if you'll check with a couple of the towns
Yeah.
on that to see if they have anything already written, you know, I think we're close enough to, between Lewis, Rehoboth, South Bethany, well,
And-
Fenwick obviously doesn't have anything because they have no trees. So, you know, we just, maybe peel off of one of them.
Yeah,
John?
and there's been a lot on rain gardens, too.
I'm sorry?
There's been a lot of information on rain gardens, too, so that could be in the natural
Okay,
minimal net.
John?
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of taking us into a quagmire or a bog, is it worth at least having a quick discussion about the need for vegetated space on a lot? I mean, I, for one, think there should be. We should not, we shouldn't get ourselves to a situation where between parking spaces, this and that there isn't room for some vegetation and color on a lot, so that it isn't, I mean, in the starkest terms, you know, all just paved or whatever, because people don't want to do anything.
No, I think yeah, I agree with you,
And I-
John, that concept.
All right, if I could, I'd like to hear from everybody so that we're setting some guardrails for
I'd
ourselves.
like to do that now.
Well, I think that's partially in this, and we can change these ratios. I kind of thought I gave it a reasonable, but in the ground covering, if I've got 40% structure, which they definitely use up, and then I say you can only cover 45% of it with pervious paving, what are you gonna do with the rest of it? You gotta do something, and it can't be structure, and it can't be paved. So that's basically, we've kind of given them that they have to do.
I guess could it be gravel?
No,
No?
Okay.
no, it can't be a ground covering.
Okay,
You're only allowed so much ground covering. It can be a pool and you've got, so at the ratio I put, and we can make it higher. The ratio is 15% is left over. You gotta do something with it, and it can't be a ground covering.
so it's already sort of there. There's gotta be something.
It's got to be, yeah. Now, it's only 50, that's 750 square feet. Is that enough? I mean,
Mr. Chairman, my only point in saying it might be worthwhile to have that discussion is to start putting our audience, our large audience that listens in on these, advance notice that we as a group feel that there should be coverage on all. Just so that if and when the day comes and something happens, we at least have a defense of saying, you know, we started talking about this back in November of 2021. Had you listened or whatever, or read the minutes? That, my point was just to kind of get us on record that as a group, we favor some kind of natural coverage.
Well, I think we have started talking, because it's October, and you brought it up, and we've had some comments already.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think that might be a natural fallout of whatever we look at the next time we talk after Mark's done his thing. By the way, Mark, this is televised. I don't know
Yeah,
whether we told you that or not.
No cursing.
We tried to fight that, because I have a face for the radio, but anyway,
Yeah, I showed up one day without having my hair combed and my Old Spice on, and
at least you have hair.
hurt my image.
Enhanced shot.
Still hurt.
I'll take this into consideration when I'm doing some
Yeah, if you
research
find
and
something,
others,
that'd be
and
great.
maybe then, you know, it builds on the three categories that Susan outlined in the ground covering of just what those, you know, some of those examples in this definition
Good.
that could help too. There's landscaping that obviously works better naturally, which is probably good too, and doesn't require additional watering sources since not everyone's here all the time, but I'll see what I find out.
All right, thank you, Mark. Susan, you ready? Okay, let's move on to old business. We're gonna take a 4-minute break, and then we'll get to old business, okay? Yeah, it is.
You know, I want to
Okay, we're back in our meeting. Old business. We have finished the review of the comprehensive plan, but there are a few odds and ends that we need to tie up, to cross some Ts, dot some Is, any other phrase I could use. My two experts are going to lead us through this. The Bobbsey twins. and the-
Regina girl. I think the one thing is, Kathy and I did spend some time going through and doing editing, but there are certain things, your page number is going to be different than what our page number is in the document online. So I think what we need to do is probably go through one more time and clean it up. However, you're not going to be able to see it.
Okay.
The other thing is to make sure, maybe if we can go down the sidelines of what Kathy and I can see, if we can go down and say, whoever said they were going to put something in, we need to know if it's been done.
Okay. All right.
Because I left, when I made some editing with the water, Lou gave me something, I left it as if, I just put it in as it was a suggestion to make sure everyone could see that that was being done. Now I'll go back and just clean it up. But I think if, Kathy, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, basically, all that Diane and I have done, we went through the entire document last week and basically just did, the spelling errors, the punctuation errors, the paragraph things.
Yeah, I don't.
But there's a
yeah.
lot of places where it says, Scott to look into, so-and-so to look into.
Okay.
And I think are just sort of free-floating out there at this point.
Andrea, could you, when they go through this, write down separately what they tell us and who was supposed to do that? And then send it to me, and then I'll send it out to whoever volunteered to do it. Mark, you're not going to have to do Scott's work. We're going to let him continue on that because he's still sort of on the commission. So with that, ladies,
Right, okay,
please.
so Kathy, I
Mr.
think on
Chairman,
page,
excuse me,
what's?
hold on just 2 seconds. John?
We need a final editor. And I'm happy with, no, I'm happy, but at some point,
It has to be sent out to
there's
someone.
got to be, and I don't know who that is, whether it's one of us or if it is someone in the town, but there need to be that, a single individual that says, okay, here's where we are, and here is now draft number 2 or the final draft, rather than leaving that amorphous, because we're starting to get down to
No,
that point.
and we can't even do the index until this is done, with the page numbers.
Scott's not here. That would normally be something we would assign to Scott to do, not to be the editor, but we do have a small budget of like $3,000, and the only thing we spend it on, I guess, is coffee and donuts. Of course, when we go through coffee and donuts, yeah, who knows? I guess the best thing for me to do is get a hold of Scott and ask him, well, either he can do it or I can call Cliff and ask them, Susan, do you have any comments on that?
On
How to get
editing
it reviewed? Yeah, just call Cliff, do you think? And see if he can get somebody
I
for
thought
us?
Lou was handling that with getting some of the graphs and everything updated. Am I incorrect on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, Lou was gonna do some of that, yeah.
And the census updating, my daughter was going to do.
Right.
I'll check to see if she can still do that.
Okay, I tell you what, I'll call Lou, even though
Right.
he's backed off on it. He's the expert anyway, and
Yeah,
see what he's got, because he, when we did this the first time in 2010, we had the University of Delaware do all that
Right.
stuff for us.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
right. So,
But when we did it in 2010, Lou in essence he was the editor-in-chief. The Delaware people did all that.
yeah, he sort of.
But he was the sort of the collator of all of that, and then presented it to us.
Well, I think he's still, yeah, I think he's still gonna do that, even though he's, given up his, seat to, Scott. Yeah, I'll call Lou and
Great.
coordinate that, so that's on me. Right.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
that's okay. And with that, now we can continue,
Okay, I'm just going through page 7 right now, Kathy, and just making corrections, but we can do that later.
Yeah, we can do.
Okay, the corrections, we're going to go through, we're going to go through and find out what needs updating. And on page,
Now, the page numbers are going to be different.
yeah, let me try and see what page is that. Let me find out what page you guys are going to be on. Okay, so that's one time. We need, well, this will be it. We need to make a check to make sure all the town, county, and state officials have been updated.
Right, right. I think we threw in a few
We-
of them.
Yeah. We tried to make some, but I just want to, if there's any other ones that we've missed. Andrea, I wonder if we can send you our Google Doc, and you can see what...
I think you sent me it.
Okay, so then you will already see what changes we made.
Yeah,
I
and
think,
I'll be in touch with Molly.
and we wanted to make sure, well, this is it, online on number 9, page 9, we needed to know if Molly is still listed, or that's town staff. What is your title? Because we added you into that.
Secretary.
What?
Town secretary?
Town secretary, okay,
Change that right now.
okay. Okay, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Kathy's doing that.
I'll do that right now.
Melanie Heald is assistant finance director now.
I don't think we had that.
We don't
no,
have, we didn't have that.
it's mainly
down.
the,
It's,
yeah,
I
the
guess.
mayor and the councils and,
And then we had the town clerk, town secretary, and the building inspector. That's what we had. Okay, so that's corrected, Kathy? I will accept it.
That's corrected.
I'll accept it, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
And then, of course, the governor, Hocker, Gray, and then I don't know about Constance Holland, Office of State
Honey, I don't-
Planning. Is she still doing
don't
that?
think
Does
she's
anybody know?
Well, you'll,
Wait, check that.
we'll check, yeah, check. Okay, I'm gonna put that down too. Okay. Next one, this is where I indented things, Kathy. We'll figure that out. We also have, like, correct the head banners throughout, so we'll do that in the final editing. We also have tourism in Bethany Beach is an important contributor to the annual fiscal stability of the town. I guess there was dating between that. What's it?
Or the numbers?
What are the numbers? Yeah, so we needed the numbers for, according to Delaware Tourism Office, tourism contributes $3 billion annually to the state gross domestic product, saving each Delaware household nearly $1,400 in taxes. We just need to know if those numbers are the same.
do you have that highlighted on your, do you have that stuff highlighted?
We've got it marked for an update.
We have it marked for an update.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
all right,
that was the one.
and you have that?
What?
You have all what they've got here, okay.
Okay, then we go down where was the, okay, now we have Scott said to update, this is on page 4. Page, what are we on,
I
Kathy?
think it is, yeah, wait a minute.
I
Yeah,
gotta get
page
the
4.
Government, community. Okay.
The surf-related injuries, Scott had marked to be updated
Right.
on page 4 of the document.
Well, you know, if you have it marked down
Yeah, we've
as-
got it all marked.
Yeah, we'll just, Just
I wonder,
ship
do we
me
need to go through it here?
the email, and we'll ship it out to everybody to, you know, actually, you could do it right under, you know, just use my name and just send email that shows who's to do what out and say, please have this done in the next,
List of all the general
yeah, because they've got
Yeah.
it right down there.
Because
and
we
that's-
have, and it's on the side of the document, like, for example, it's under Kathy's name, but it says John to
John
update.
Apple to update.
John Apple to update,
I
you
think
know.
John did quite a few updates, but sent them to Lou,
Okay,
and I think he did that this past week.
yeah.
Okay, so the updating
Normally,
should,
I'd say I was gonna send this all to Lou, because that's who was running the whole thing for
Maybe
us.
we don't have to go through.
But then he gave up his seat, and I'm not
Yeah.
quite
I'll
sure.
see if they can, everybody can just send it to me, and that way I'll have it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get John to resend it to you, because I know he did, he had a list of things he had to do, and I know he did them this past week.
okay. So Andrea, you have our Google
I
Doc.
know it's coming.
Okay, then you'll see everything on the side, because Kathy and I went down and did a lot of editing. So I think most of the stuff we left was who needs to do things. So if you have it and send it out, that would be great.
Yeah, just the note saying, here are the people who are responsible
Yeah.
for these particular items, and we should,
And some of the, I guess, maps and graphs, I don't know where it is even to get the update, but,
that's Lou. Lou
Yeah,
was
Lou
gonna
would have
deal
it,
with
yeah,
that,
yeah. okay. So Scott would know that. It's basically Scott's name on a lot of that, then Scott can go to Lou to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go. I
that'll
like
work.
There's some stuff, like the surf-related injuries, like,
That's what happens when you don't,
I
you're,
Joe, I
you're,
see
you're
Joe a
on
lot,
leave.
and the police and all that, so I could gather information.
Okay,
Sure.
so I think,
He's in the building, so it's probably easier for me to get a hold of
Okay,
a lot of this information.
yeah, I'm way past, I'm on 22. I think that's most of the things that we have on the side
Yeah, it's,
to update. I have my name
I'd
on,
like to have it by the next meeting
Yeah.
in November.
Yeah, if you guys just have everybody's name by the updates,
Yeah.
or even a certain
Yeah.
organization you need me to draw
Like-
that
yep, you'll see it, and maybe note the page number so they can easily find it.
That way you guys aren't going through the
No.
whole thing.
Right.
do you
Right.
have this
Just
online
have
at
a
home?
list of what needs to be updated.
Not that, no.
and then
Right.
I'll check it off when I get the update.
But that's okay.
That sounds good.
Out,
It's not,
I'm the chairman.
figure out what we need, and then cross it off as I get it.
okay.
Yeah, I think all of us going through it right now is almost, I don't want to say a waste of time, but
Yeah, well, I don't want to go
I
through
know,
it.
no,
yeah.
no.
Not unless you've made any editorial changes.
Right,
So we
but
can-
even
Yeah.
things like I'm to update, it has to come from someplace, you know, the statistics, and I think that's what we'll need to talk to Scott.
poor Scott, he's he's got, we're going to see his name throughout this document, yeah.
I mean, even if Scott says, you know, hey, I think this person could probably get it.
Right,
Always
it-
reach out to that person.
right.
We'll get it
Okay,
updated one way or
okay, so why don't we leave it at that? I think that's basically where we're at. Kathy and I will go through one more time to see. Yeah, I think and I'm going to correct the numbers that I have, what I've added, and I'll make them as editing marks by next time. Those are the data that Lou sent me on the water well data. Okay, okay. Yeah, we have a lot for John Apple to do.
I
And-
think he did do them.
Huh?
I think he did.
Oh, he did
a
it?
lot,
Okay.
yeah. I think he did, I know he did things like the trolleys, the number of passengers, et cetera.
Okay,
and
fine.
There's a couple other things, and he sent them
Okay,
to Lou.
okay, he sent them to,
Oh,
okay.
he sent to Lou?
Okay, then Lou has, yeah, well, he
So
sent,
Lou needs to send it to you. Yeah.
Well, John's right,
yeah,
Or you can go
Yeah.
say, John,
yeah, because I did get some things from Lou, and I made those corrections already.
no, he did it this week.
But some of the other ones I made as, I was just suggesting to make sure that they were correct. So, okay.
Good.
So we'll have the other stuff that, he said he was gonna send me some more things too, but I haven't received them lately.
All right, well, I'll call Lou and tell him what we're doing.
Yeah.
And,
We just need to know where we need to get the graphs and things and how we have to place them in.
well, I think,
But that could be the final editing.
Yeah, I think that was mainly,
Okay.
what, Lou was gonna get something, everybody was gonna get something, you know, all the people who know anything, okay. And then we really, yeah, I'm gonna, so we really need, once we get all that together, we'll need a proofreader of some.
That's exactly right.
And,
John's pretty good at that.
I can certainly try.
I mean, we'll be with you.
Yeah.
I mean, he's good at that.
Yeah.
yeah, actually, once it's all done, let's print out a copy of what we have and let everybody look at it for proofreading. And that'll, so it may be January before we get this out, but we're, we're not
Okay.
in a great rush for it. We're probably ahead of everybody else anyway.
Well, actually, if the three of us have it online, we only need 2 copies for the 2 of you, correct?
Right,
Okay.
2 copies, paper copies.
yeah.
Paper copies. You need the paper copies.
Yeah, I do.
And then
I
you
want
could,
paper.
then you could,
Me too,
Yeah, I can't
unfortunately,
do
ladies
it on
and
that. I
gentlemen.
mean, I'll miss things. I did that. All I had was paper when I was a little guy. So, okay.
You had paper? I had
Like this.
papyrus, but
okay, so that's it.
Okay.
That's it, okay.
But Andrea, I'm gonna need a paper copy of whatever we're gonna call it at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, and I will try to see if I can get the census updated,
Okay,
okay?
good.
I'll see what the time frame is for Molly, okay?
All right, so summarizing the action, thank you. Everybody's done a good job, and thank you for all our volunteers. The next meeting will be hopefully,
November
in November, unless we don't have this completed. If that's the case, well, we'll play it by ear. I'm not going to ask anybody to come if we're just, don't have everything to deal with. Because Susan,
It's the
apparently,
20th, I think, right?
this one's probably not going to be ready until their estate is taken care of.
Right,
So that's a no-go.
Well, I'll let you know that. I'll check with that person early,
Okay.
So,
And,
because I may have to, I probably should repost it, so we're just
Right.
gonna put it off. It might not even happen until the next year at this
okay.
rate.
Well, we'll probably have a meeting if Mark can get that stuff done, and John wants to have a discussion about the other stuff, yeah, we can go ahead and have a meeting. It might only be 45 minutes to an hour, but that's okay.
yeah,
We're
but
talking
We
about
can have
November.
one, because I don't think December, we probably will not meet.
That's why I was thinking that this partitioning won't come up until January.
Yeah, so we probably ought to have one at least before the end of the year. So let's plan on being here the 20th.
well, if we can get most of the information in, we should be able to
Well,
at
that's
least
what I'm
edit
hoping.
this document.
Yeah,
Um,
and then, Mark, you have it on your computer?
Yeah, Scott shared the file, so it looked like I was just in with Diane and Kathy, so
Yeah.
I could try to
Yeah, you
help.
probably have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hardest job, because you're
Lot
trying
to
to catch up
on.
with us. But,
Are we going to ask whoever is responsible for the update to go ahead and do it as in just an edit?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Just go ahead and do it
Yeah.
in the document?
Yeah.
Well, you know what, if they would do it as
Or-
a suggestion, then we know they've done it.
That's what I mean, a
Yeah.
suggestion
They'll-
in the document.
Yeah, yeah, and then we go back, Kenneth and I just go back and edit
And-
it and say it's okay.
Right.
So Andrew,
I
you
did
just,
all the things I was
Pardon?
supposed to. I just put the things I had in there.
Yeah, we saw a
Good, good,
bunch,
that's fine, yes.
we saw a bunch of yours,
I think,
Susan,
yeah,
and
because we knew that you were doing stuff.
changed it.
so
And
they
not
can
changed
send
it,
it to you, Andrea, and then you can just
Because if you already did it, then it's,
throw it in. That'd be perfect.
That's fine, I can put it in.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
If you send me, the exact words that you want in the document, I can plug it in for you guys, that's fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. And John and I don't need anything until that happens.
That's fine, and then I'll even have hard copies of the changes, and that way you guys can look at them and
And
all
for
that good
John,
stuff.
make it big letters.
I'll have a little
Big-
folder for
big-
you
yeah.
guys.
Tough crowd.
With the large words.
I know it takes a couple more reams of paper, but. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know we typically have not met in December.
Right.
I don't know what how the town council or the town looks at when they want to have this. I would, but I know I can make myself available in December. Doesn't have to be the third Saturday. If there is a push to have something by the end of the year.
Yeah, there is no push on that.
Okay. I mean-
they know we're doing it, and, I think we're ahead of schedule right now.
I think, yeah, didn't you indicate yesterday
Yeah.
that January, maybe they'd have something in hand?
Yeah,
or-
that would be the earliest, would be January.
I mean, this is the 2022 update.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So it's, we have plenty of time. We're ahead of schedule. It's, as I told the council yesterday, that we have finished the review. We just had to cross some Ts, dot some Is, and put new
Yeah.
numbers in.
Well, having
And
it done
that's it.
this way makes it a lot easier.
I
For you young
Scott was
people.
good. See, yeah, I'm older
I
than
work
you.
in this every day, so it's fine.
Not up here.
Crash course.
Okay, so I think we've summarized the actions, and I want to thank everybody for showing up and being so cooperative. Are there any more comments from anybody? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Well, Mark, that's about how it goes normally. Thank you. Yeah. We're a little laid back, so.
You know, today, the VFW